Case 1. Cassandra Bjorge. In April 2017, a shocking crime shocked the peaceful suburb of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Cassandra Bjorge, a 17-year-old girl, and her 19-year-old boyfriend, Johnny Hyro Ryder, brutally murdered Cassandra's grandparents, 63-year-old Wendy and Randall Bjorge. Their bodies were discovered after a welfare check, but what police uncovered was beyond anyone's imagination. Wendy and Randall had been killed in their own home, and the murderers had lived with the bodies for days. In this video, we're going to dive into the chilling details of the case and explore the horrifying events that followed. On April 8, 2017, authorities responded to a welfare check after family members grew concerned. They found the bodies of Wendy and Randall Bjorge in their Lawrenceville home. The scene was chilling. The couple had been violently attacked, suffering multiple injuries from sharp and blunt objects, including a hammer and butcher knives. They had been dead for about a week. The crime was not just brutal, it was a grotesque display of violence. The police were horrified to learn that Cassandra and Johnny had stayed in the house for days with the decomposing bodies, hosting gatherings, and even caulking the doors to contain the odor. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment crime, but something far darker. As investigators delved deeper, they learned that Cassandra and Johnny hadn't acted out of a momentary rage. They had carefully planned the murder. Their first clue came when Wendy and Randall's vehicle was discovered in an assault scene involving Ryder and his sister. The police then found traces of blood at a nearby location and forced entry into the Bjorge home, revealing the gruesome scene inside. Both Cassandra and Johnny were taken into custody after a brief standoff in Suwanee, Georgia, where they were found with self-inflicted knife wounds. The truth was starting to unravel. Cassandra's confession would reveal chilling details. She admitted to helping Johnny murder her grandparents. Johnny had attacked her grandfather first, and Cassandra said she felt a surge of energy that led her to kill her grandmother. The two had planned on killing more people, Johnny's family, and even Cassandra's own mother. However, their plan fell apart when Johnny became hesitant after spotting unfamiliar cars in the driveway. They had also attacked Johnny's sister and her boyfriend with a baseball bat, but the sister managed to escape. This wasn't a random act. It was cold, calculated, and terrifying. After the murders, Cassandra and Johnny lived in the house with the bodies for several days. They even hosted gatherings with friends, trying to keep up appearances as if everything was normal. During this time, they attempted to hide the evidence of their crimes. They caulked doors to block the smell of the decomposing bodies, and Cassandra confessed that they even used plastic to cover the bodies. The horror of their actions was compounded by the sheer disregard for human life, as they tried to continue living as if nothing had happened. On April 13, 2017, after police connected the dots from the assault involving Johnny's sister, authorities launched a full-scale manhunt for the teens. They were found in an apartment complex in Suwanee, Georgia, after a brief standoff with a SWAT team. Both Cassandra and Johnny had self-inflicted knife wounds and were taken to the hospital before being booked into custody. The brutal murders of her grandparents and the cold, calculated nature of the crime shocked the community, but it was only the beginning of what would become a sensational case. In February 2018, both Cassandra and Johnny pleaded guilty to the murders of Wendy and Randall Bjorge. The plea deal spared them from the death penalty, but resulted in consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Cassandra, who was still a minor at the time of the murders, was sentenced to life along with her boyfriend, Johnny. Their remorse was limited, but the court decided that both had to face the consequences of their horrific actions. The case remained a dark chapter in Georgia's criminal history, but justice was eventually served. Case 2. Kat Torres. Kat Torres,
born in Belém, Brazil in 1992, began her journey in the spotlight through beauty pageants, eventually securing modeling contracts with major brands like L'Oreal and Calvin Klein. Her transition to the United States marks the beginning of her online presence, where she amassed over 1 million followers on Instagram. Portraying a life of luxury and spiritual enlightenment, Torres offered paid consultations and self-help content, positioning herself as a wellness guru. Her narrative of overcoming a traumatic past resonated with many, drawing followers seeking guidance and transformation. Beneath her polished online persona, Torres manipulated her followers for personal gain. She convinced women to relocate to the U.S., promising mentorship and a better life. Once under her influence, these women were subjected to unpaid labor, coercion, and sexual exploitation. Victims reported being isolated from their families, deprived of personal documents, and forced into sex work to meet daily financial quotas. Torres maintained control through psychological manipulation, including threats of curses and spiritual retribution. Her actions were concealed under the guise of spiritual guidance and empowerment. In 2022, 2 Brazilian women, Desiree Freitas and Leticia Maia, went missing after moving to the U.S. to join Torres. Their families launched a public campaign to locate them, which gained significant media attention. This publicity prompted the FBI to initiate an investigation, uncovering the extent of Torres's exploitation. The missing women were found living under Torres's control in Texas, subjected to forced labor and sexual exploitation. Their testimonies became pivotal in the legal proceedings against Torres. The FBI's investigation into Torres began following the disappearance of Desiree and Leticia. Authorities uncovered that Torres had lured multiple women from Brazil to the U.S. with promises of a better life, only to exploit them. Evidence gathered included testimonies from victims, financial records, and digital communications. The investigation revealed that Torres had established a network of coerced individuals operating under the pretense of spiritual mentorship. This led to her arrest in Maine in November 2022. Following her arrest in Maine, Torres was deported to Brazil in November 2022. Upon arrival, she faced charges of human trafficking and slavery. The Brazilian authorities conducted their own investigation, which corroborated the findings of the U.S. authorities. Torres was detained in Belo Horizonte, where she remained in custody awaiting trial. During this period, she maintained her innocence, claiming that the allegations against her were fabricated. In June 2024, a Brazilian court convicted Kat Torres of human trafficking and slavery related to the exploitation of Desiree Freitas. The court found that Torres had lured Freitas to the U.S. with promises of a better life, only to subject her to forced labor and sexual exploitation. The judge sentenced Torres to 8 years in prison. Additional charges related to other victims were still under investigation at the time of her conviction.
Case number 3. Meagan Grunwald. On January 30th, 2014, Utah County Sheriff Sergeant Corey Ride conducted a routine welfare check on a parked Toyota Tundra along State Route 73 near Eagle Mountain, Utah. Inside the truck were 17-year-old Meagan Grunwald and her 27-year-old boyfriend, Jose Angel Garcia-Juaregui. As Ride returned to his patrol car to run a background check, Garcia-Juaregui opened fire from the back window of the Tundra, fatally shooting Ride. Grunwald, who was driving, sped away, initiating a violent crime spree across multiple counties. After the initial shooting, Grunwald led authorities on a high-speed chase through Utah County. During the pursuit, Garcia-Juaregui shot at pursuing officers, wounding Deputy Greg Sherwood. The chase continued as the pair carjacked another vehicle and continued evading law enforcement. Meanwhile, officers were on high alert, determined to capture the dangerous suspects. At one point, Grunwald and Garcia-Juaregui abandoned the stolen vehicle, but Garcia-Juaregui was eventually confronted by police in a final, fatal shootout. After Garcia-Juaregui's death in the shootout, Grunwald was arrested and charged with several serious crimes, including aggravated murder and attempted murder. In the wake of the tragedy, the community was left reeling, grappling with the senseless killing of Sergeant Ride. His widow, Nanette, and their family were devastated by the loss of a dedicated law enforcement officer. The case attracted significant media attention, with many questioning the role of Grunwald in the crime and her responsibility as a 17-year-old getaway driver. In 2015, Meagan Grunwald was convicted of 11 charges, including aggravated murder for her role in Sergeant Ride's death. Despite not being the one who fired the fatal shot, her involvement in the crime spree led to a conviction that carried a potential life sentence. The prosecution argued that her role as a getaway driver made her equally responsible for the murder. While the jury deliberated on her actions, many saw her as a willing accomplice in a dangerous, violent crime. In 2020, Grunwald's conviction was overturned by the Utah Supreme Court. The court ruled that the jury instructions were flawed and that they may have been misled into convicting her on aggravated murder. This decision left many shocked, as they had believed that her actions directly contributed to the fatal shooting. While some felt the decision was unjust, others saw it as a recognition of the complexities of accomplice liability. The ruling allowed Grunwald to pursue a reduced sentence, raising questions about the legal responsibilities of those involved in crimes they did not directly commit. After the Utah Supreme Court's ruling, Grunwald reached a plea deal in which she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and assault on a peace officer. This plea resulted in a lesser sentence than her original conviction. In 2021, Grunwald was sentenced to 30 years in prison, with the charges running consecutively. The courtroom was filled with emotions, as both Grunwald's family and the Ride family sought closure. Though some believed Grunwald's reduced sentence was just, others saw it as a stark reminder of how accomplices could evade full responsibility for their actions.
Case 4. Sofia Koval. On May 23, 2024, tragedy struck in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida. 14-year-old Sofia Koval found herself alone with her 79-year-old grandmother, Yevgenia Koval, at their apartment. By the time her father, Vladimir Koval, returned home, the scene was chilling. His mother was lying unresponsive on the floor, bruised and battered. After calling for help, authorities arrived at the home to find Yevgenia's cause of death was blunt force trauma. This was not just a tragic accident, it was a senseless act of violence that would forever change the lives of Sofia and her family. When authorities arrived at the scene, the horror became clear. Sofia's grandmother, Yevgenia, had been severely beaten. Sofia was immediately questioned and, during her interviews, revealed shocking details. She admitted to using a belt to strike her grandmother. This admission raised more questions about the motive and circumstances surrounding the crime. Was this a random act of violence, or did deeper issues lead to such brutality? As investigators dug deeper, they learned about the strained relationship between Sofia and her grandmother, though nothing could explain the brutal nature of the crime that night. Sofia's family had been through turmoil long before this tragic event. Her father, Vladimir Koval, spoke about the hardships his daughter faced since moving to the United States from Ukraine. The trauma of war and the difficult transition to a new country created a turbulent environment. Sofia, caught in the chaos of adjusting to a foreign land while processing the scars of her past, struggled with her mental health. Her violent outburst on that fateful night seemed to be the culmination of unresolved emotional issues, but the family was left in shock, not fully understanding what had led to the deadly altercation. As investigators examined the evidence, they were faced with questions that didn't have easy answers. Why did Sofia, a young girl, lash out with such force? Was there a trigger, or was it simply a violent outburst? The brutality of the crime raised suspicions about Sofia's mental state and the relationship she had with her grandmother. The police uncovered that Sofia had been living with Yevgenia for some time, but details about their relationship were murky. It became clear that Sofia was emotionally struggling, but it was still unclear if there had been more to the story than just family tension. In the aftermath of the killing, Sofia was charged with manslaughter and taken into custody. The legal process moved quickly, with Sofia's case being handled as an adult due to the severity of the crime. However, her age and mental state would play a critical role in her sentencing. Sofia's defense team argued that she was a victim of trauma and mental health issues, citing her troubled upbringing and the strain of adapting to a new life in the U.S. The prosecution, on the other hand, focused on the brutality of the crime, insisting that Sofia needed to face serious consequences for her actions. As the case moved to court, Sofia's attorneys negotiated a plea deal. On October 30, 2024, Sofia entered a plea of no contest to the charges of manslaughter. By pleading no contest, she accepted the charges without admitting guilt, which was a strategic move in the legal proceedings. The court, understanding her age and mental state, chose not to sentence her as an adult, but instead sent her to a juvenile detention facility. Sofia's fate was sealed. She would serve a maximum sentence of up to 3 years in the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice Highest Risk Commitment Program. Sofia's sentencing was a somber affair. The court sentenced her to serve up to 3 years in juvenile detention, followed by community supervision until she turned 21. The judge emphasized the need for rehabilitation, given Sofia's age and the trauma she had experienced. Sofia's father, Vladimir, expressed deep sorrow for both his mother's death and his daughter's fate. Though he was devastated by the events, he continued to express hope that Sofia could be rehabilitated and find a way to heal from the emotional scars that led to the crime. The journey towards redemption was now in Sofia's hands.
Case 5. Jordan Jobson. On a fateful day in 2007, the life of 18-year-old Samantha Madgin was tragically cut short. Samantha, a young mother, was stabbed to death by 15-year-old Jordan Jobson, leaving her family in shock and grief. The murder occurred in the quiet town of Manchester, a place where such violence seemed unimaginable. Samantha had just given birth to a baby and was trying to build a future when her life was violently taken. This shocking act of brutality would send ripples through the community and the justice system, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jordan Jobson, at just 15 years old, had a troubled past that led to her eventual involvement in Samantha Madgin's death. Raised in a chaotic environment, Jobson had a history of violence and aggression. She had been involved in several incidents before the murder, but none as serious as the attack on Samantha. Known to have a volatile temperament, Jobson's upbringing and personal struggles were seen as contributing factors to her actions. Despite her young age, Jobson's violent tendencies escalated, leading to the horrifying crime that would ultimately alter her life forever. The day Samantha Madgin was killed, the crime scene painted a chilling picture. Samantha had been attacked in her own home by Jobson, who, in a moment of intense aggression, fatally stabbed her. Authorities quickly responded to the scene, finding Samantha's lifeless body and beginning an extensive investigation. The evidence collected pointed directly to Jobson, and within hours she was apprehended. The investigation revealed a disturbing lack of remorse from Jobson, as she showed no signs of regret for her actions. The murder stunned the local community, and the police were determined to uncover the truth behind this brutal crime. Jordan Jobson's trial in 2007 revealed the full extent of the violence she had inflicted on Samantha. The prosecution argued that Jobson's attack was deliberate and cold-blooded, with no provocation or justification. The defense, however, attempted to argue that Jobson was acting out of a difficult home life and emotional distress. Despite this, the jury convicted her of murder.
Jobson was sentenced to life in prison, a sentence that would have her behind bars for a significant portion of her life. The trial brought much attention to the case, especially given Jobson's age at the time of the crime. In December 2020, Jordan Jobson's life sentence was controversially cut short, and she was released from prison on license. This decision shocked many, especially considering the brutal nature of the crime and the emotional toll it had on Samantha's family. The release was part of a review of her case and the criminal justice system's handling of juvenile offenders. Despite her release, Jobson was required to adhere to strict conditions, including regular check-ins with authorities. Many felt uneasy about her freedom, wondering whether the justice system had truly served its purpose in her case.
Case 6. Janine Gonzalez. In August 2022, a deadly confrontation unfolded in Buford, Georgia, involving 30-year-old Ashley Bocanegra, 17-year-old Janine Gonzalez, and 27-year-old Antonetta Stevens. Ashley, a single mother from New York, had been romantically involved with Daniel Gonzalez, who was also Stevens' fiancé. The affair came to light, leading to a volatile mix of jealousy and betrayal. Stevens and Gonzalez lured Ashley to their apartment under the guise of meeting Daniel, setting the stage for a fatal encounter. On August 11, Ashley arrived at the apartment complex, unaware of the trap awaiting her. Once there, Stevens and Gonzalez ambushed her, initiating a brutal physical altercation. The assault was captured on video by Gonzalez, who recorded the incident as Stevens attacked Ashley. During the attack, Stevens can be heard threatening Ashley, saying, "Are you ready to die?" and "I could do worse." The confrontation escalated quickly, leaving Ashley severely injured. Following the attack, Ashley was rushed to a local hospital with severe injuries, including internal bleeding and a ruptured gland. Despite efforts to save her, she succumbed to her injuries hours later. Investigators pieced together the events leading to her death, discovering that Stevens and Gonzalez had used Daniel's phone to lure Ashley to the apartment. The stolen cell phone was found in their possession, further implicating them in the crime. In the wake of Ashley's death, both Stevens and Gonzalez were arrested and charged with aggravated battery, robbery, and felony murder. Their actions, captured on video and corroborated by evidence, led to swift legal proceedings. The severity of the crime and the cold demeanor displayed by the perpetrators during interrogations shocked the community and the nation. During court proceedings, disturbing details emerged about the nature of the attack. The video footage showed Stevens initiating the assault while Gonzalez filmed and participated. Gonzalez's lack of remorse was evident as she laughed during police questioning, downplaying her role in the murder. Stevens, on the other hand, expressed minimal regret, claiming the altercation was mutual. The chilling footage and their reactions provided a stark insight into their mindset.
In 2023, both Stevens and Gonzalez pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and robbery by force. They were sentenced to 20 years in prison, with eligibility for release in 2042. The case sparked widespread outrage, particularly due to the cold and callous behavior displayed by the perpetrators. Public reaction was swift, with many expressing disbelief over the brutal nature of the crime and the lack of empathy shown by the accused.
The murder of Ashley Bocanegra underscores the dangers inherent in unresolved jealousy and betrayal. It highlights the need for open communication and conflict resolution in relationships. The case also brings attention to the role of social media and digital communication in facilitating harmful behavior. As we reflect on this tragedy, it serves as a call to action to foster healthier relationships and to intervene before conflicts escalate into violence.
If you found this case compelling and want to stay updated on more true crime stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring more content like this to you. Stay informed, stay safe, and remember to always be aware of your surroundings.